Yeah, like life is way too short to be in a place that you're not truly fulfilled or happy for a long enough time. That's not saying avoid hard work and doing stuff that that's not avoiding hard work, and there might be times that you're miserable for months, but if there's too much time that goes by, then like you need to change something.
Everyone you meet every single day is fighting a battle you may know nothing about. We're all in the process of overcoming. I'm Justin Wren, and my story has been heard by millions of people through my book, my TED Talk, podcast interviews, TV shows, professional fighting, and my foundation, Fight for the Forgotten. I believe we are all overcomers if we choose to overcome. We all have the option. I've been given the opportunity to overcome childhood trauma, sexual abuse, immense bullying, depression, suicidal ideation, substance use disorder, and I am a 2-time suicide survivor. We are here to have conversations with some of the greatest minds of our time. Get ready to be inspired and to receive the tools and game plan to win this fight called life. Thank you for being here, for showing up for yourself. You, me, we have overcome 100% of our darkest days. I'm not done yet, and neither are you. This is your invitation to overcome. Here we go. AJ, my man, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. 8 a.m. on a Monday.
Yeah, that's when you're ready to go.
I took my Onnit this morning.
Oh, great. Awesome. Alpha Brain. There you go. And I'm grateful, so grateful you're here. We've known each other for what? Since we were like 15, 16 years? Yeah. Wow.
Where at?
AJ wrestled at Highland Park High School.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I went to SMU, so.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
What were you, the Scotsmen?
The Scots.
The Scots. Okay. And they were the prolific, iconic Texas wrestling team. And then we were up and coming, and we were Bishop Lynch. And so would you say we were rivals? Not necessarily, because we were private school, you were public school.
Yeah, but I think the majority of your team and the majority of our team were on the national team together.
Yeah. So every summer, and even during the school year, we would train together because we were in the same town.
Yep. And then we would take a bus from Dallas, Texas to Fargo, North Dakota every summer.
Oh, man. What were those? Those were like more than 12-hour drives.
It was like 3 days and just a bunch of smelly high school wrestlers being crazy.
Yeah. And we would wrestle first at the University of North Texas, right?
Yep.
For camp.
Yep.
And getting ready, getting acclimated. All the state champions and second, third in state. And we were doing freestyle and Greco. So a bunch of leg takedowns and then Greco-Roman throws. And what'd you like better, freestyle or Greco?
Probably freestyle, I think. And I think the majority of your listeners know, but like Greco, the really interesting thing is you don't touch the other person's legs ever.
Yep.
So it's all upper body like throws. And what do you think's more technical?
Oh, I think they're both really technical in their own ways. I think freestyle has more because you can do all the throws in Greco, but it's leg attacks also.
Totally.
But I think when you take the legs away, now you have to become much more technical at the throws.
Totally.
And so that's what I loved, was Greco throws. But Chip, AJ's brother, and him were just two of the best wrestlers in state.
I wouldn't go that
I'm
far.
just curious how you got even involved with it, because it's pretty progressive for Texas.
For sure. Yes. So my dad wrestled at Columbia, and then growing up, he I don't know, we were wrestling when we were like 5, 6 years old. The little kids wrestling is like the cutest, most odd thing with like kids throwing other kids around. And so we wrestled 15 years. Probably 15 years growing up. My brother is 2 years older, and he went to Cal Poly to wrestle, which is a Division I school in Central California. And then I went to Cal Poly to wrestle as well. And we had an absolute blast there.
Would you say that that's the best in California wrestling? It's one of them.
It's one of them. Like Stanford's typically good.
Oh, yeah.
But I haven't even talked about wrestling in 10 years. I stopped, I think, in 2008 to focus on
your business.
Business, school. Actually, I didn't really focus on school, mainly my business, which I'm sure we'll cover.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think? What was one of your favorite high school wrestling memories?
Well, I would say so. We won the state championship. I want to say twice. I think we won it once when my brother was captain. We won it when I was captain. We had two other captains that were excellent. I think winning the state championship.
Hobart?
Hobart Keegan. You remember?
Yeah, Keegan Mueller.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fred Rousey.
Yep.
Drew Newman. Just all great guys. Like, and and I'm sure you're good buddies with your guys that you grew up wrestling with. It's really cool to see how everyone's like lives went away from the sport, and now everyone's, for the most part, like young professionals, either running their own businesses or just like scaling personally, which is awesome.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about wrestlers is I think they become good businessmen and entrepreneurs. In Oklahoma, at least, when I was living there, it seemed like everyone went into medical sales but started their own company from OU or OSU. And then there's a guy named Chad Richardson who supports wrestling big time at UCO and started Paycom and is like a billionaire now and an amazing like philanthropist also. But what do you think you learned from wrestling that has translated to life or business to where, I mean, you have to have a hard work ethic and be willing to overcome whenever you're facing adversity. But what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, definitely commitment. I was talking to someone yesterday about this. I mean, cutting weight is just the most, like, you really have to commit to that.
I'm so glad I never did that.
Oh my gosh. Like I would walk around weighing, call it like 161, and then I'd have to wrestle 145 pounds every week or every other week. So
for the listeners, you're losing nearly 20 pounds every week.
Yeah, like 15 to 20 pounds. And it was like you'd start to stop eating about 4 days before, you stop drinking water like 2 to 3 days before. And then how it works is you weigh in. So I was wrestling 145. You weigh in at 8 a.m. and then you have an hour? Was it an hour or 2 hours to rehydrate? Mm-hmm. And so everyone gains like 12 pounds back before their first match within 2 hours. It was just a wild time. But I would say the cool thing about like wrestling or MMA is you're on a team, but it's only you. Like you control your destiny completely. And so it's this great mix of like, it's an amazing team sport, but then you're responsible for, like it's on your shoulders for how you perform. Like you can only blame yourself. Yeah. And so I would say I would say growing up in that, community is it gave you a lot of sense of ownership. Like you own your outcome. And just as in business, like luck plays a huge role in it. But like training and just being, it's a mental game.
Yeah. Being prepared
for sure
for when the opportunity comes. I love that because, you know, in wrestling, I think I was drawn to the sport because I had played so many team sports, baseball, soccer, basketball, football. And my parents put me in every sport there was. I played tennis and horseback riding and I mean like calf roping and barrel racing and
can you still handle a rope?
I could probably still handle a rope. At least if I don't know against a calf, but at least a horse head a calf head inside of a bale of hay. I could
wait, that's awesome.
That. Yeah. So I grew up going to the rodeos all the time. My mom was a 2-time national champion in barrel racing.
Oh, that's amazing.
She was a stud. My uncle was like a several-time world champion. And so I came from that, but whenever my dad he was pretty hard to deal with when it came to team sports. There was times that he got thrown out of games for arguing with coaches or refs or other parents. And I could come off the football field and we won the game, but if I was offsides once, that's what I'm going to hear about on the drive home. So I chose wrestling because he knew nothing about it. And I got into it late at 15. But I was with 2 Olympic gold medalists. So I got good quick because I learned the foundations from the best. But I think that when I was on the mats, it was all up to you. There was no blaming of somebody else, you know, the quarterback blaming the lineman or somebody that missed a block or a tackle. And I love that. And being a heavyweight, one of my memories was one of the worst memories, especially on Team Texas when I wasn't that good and we were doing duels. and it would come down to the heavyweight matches.
Oh, and it always would.
Yeah, always would. So I lost 2 or 3 that were real important.
And you remember this? Like, do you remember
yeah.
the matches clearly?
Yeah, like, I mean, I was set up to where I had to go out there and pin the guy from Nebraska or Oklahoma or something like that. Like, I can't just beat him on points.
Totally.
I have to own him. But I think it was good. It was a pressure cooker situation to where for Bishop Lynch and Team Texas junior and senior year, I never lost one of the matches that came down to me. And if they said you have to tech fall him, I'd go out there and tech fall him. If you have to pin him, I'd go out there and pin him. You have to tech fall him without him scoring a single point. I would make sure that I went out there and did that. So I enjoyed that to where then it is on me, but now I know the team can count on me. You tell me what to do, I'll go out there and do it. So
Right, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, going into business, you and Chip became entrepreneurs early. How old were you?
Right when we went to probably 2006, so call it 18. So Chip's my older brother. We were at Cal Poly together. He was a wine and viticulture major, which going to college, I had no idea that you could major in winemaking. Basically.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And
still didn't know that.
Yeah. And so this Chip linked up. He was working at a winery, and he linked up with a former Navy SEAL that made a ton of money because he invented the underwater maps, so that like the SEALs could, if you remember the maps that were laminated and folded in your glove box growing up. So he had the patent to that.
Wow.
And that was, so he made a good amount of money, and he said, hey, if you guys plant the wine, if you guys plant the vines, make the wine, I'll fund everything, but you guys can keep 80% of the grapes and he'll take 20% of it. And so we would trick our friends. We'd be like, hey, we're having a party on this winery. You guys should come up. And they would, our friends would come up, and then we would have a keg, and then we would just plant like 1,000 vines at one spot. So we're just digging holes, fence posts. And then, so that was the first winery. And then Chip and his co-founders started a second one called Slow Down Wines. And then that kind of exposed me to entrepreneurship, which I thought was really cool. And then I started. I kept breaking my iPhone. I was breaking my iPhone way too much, and Apple was charging $200 at the time to fix it. And I was like, there has to be a better way. And so I took it apart, replaced the screen, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually like it wasn't terribly difficult. And then I got a phone call from one of my buddies that's like, hey, I broke my phone as well. Can you come to the library and fix it for me? And so I was like, yeah, sure. I show up at the library. Put a new screen on, and it became this. I never thought it was going to be bigger than just like fixing my friends' phones, and I charged my friend, I think like $60, and the part cost $30 or something. So I was like, hey, $30 in college is a ton of money, and so I linked up with one of my graphic design friends, and she made these like neon posters. And so I gave each of my friends like 50 little neon posters, so that when they went to the classrooms, they would staple it to the wall or tape it to the wall. And actually, just a real quick life hack is we would tape it as higher than the janitors can reach it, so that in classrooms they wouldn't
So
be able to
they
can't take it down. and I started getting phone calls being like, hey, can you meet me? And it was actually in the library, and I was doing all these iPhone repairs. Then and I was like, this is a great business. I think it did, like as a college student, I think the first year it did like $75,000 in revenue, which is an insane amount. And it was paying for tuition, rent, everything. And I linked up with, one of my good friends at the time, a guy named Anthony Martin. And I taught him how to repair phones. He started doing it on his campus. We ended up graduating in 2011, packed his car, moved to Silicon Valley to try the whole startup thing, and the long story short of it, we ended up like over 8 years, brought on thousands of technicians.
Thousands
of technicians. It was doing tens of millions in revenue
from the Cal Poly library.
From the Cal Poly library, from posters.
Thousands.
Yeah. So we got up to about 5,000 technicians. Had over 100 core employees.
What does that mean? 5,000 technicians. Are they having physical locations? Or?
So that's actually a great question. So we were branding ourselves as like the Uber of iPhone repair. So it was a company called iCracked. So you anywhere in the U.S. You press a button and a technician would drive to your home, office, school, wherever, and they'd fix your phone right there. So you never had to go to the mall kiosk. You didn't have to take it in anywhere. And the whole idea was like, how do we do this globally? And so we could talk about this for hours, and it was an uphill battle for 8 years. But the whole idea was like, just press a button and a technical a guy will show up with parts.
You guys expanded to 5 different countries.
Yeah, and we were so we went Japan, UK, Germany, Canada. And probably a couple more in the EU.
Wow.
Which was wild.
And then you got to sell that.
Yeah. So we sold the business to Allstate Insurance in 2019. And I worked there for 2 years. And then about a year ago, I stepped down, and now I'm a full-time chicken farmer.
Okay. Nice. And you got to sell that for a good amount. I mean, for millions.
Yep.
And so congratulations.
Thank you. It was
on that. And
it was a very wild.
When I say millions, that's like a low estimate. You did quite a few million. And then what was it? How does that happen with Allstate Insurance buying a iCracked, the technology repair company, so iPhone repair? So
so in 2016 we started doing repairs for insurance for insurers. So you go to AT&T and Verizon and they sell you a $15 a month insurance plan. And so we were the white labeled service provider for these insurance repairs. Allstate wanted to get into the cell phone insurance game, and we were the conduit because we could be the repair network. We also launched smart home installation. So think like Amazon Alexa, smart lighting, Nest thermostats. And when we had thousands of technicians, we could outfit them with smart home products, and then you'd press a button and we show up and start installing smart home devices. And then Allstate thought it'd be a good idea because we could start doing like claims for them. So if you're an Allstate customer and something goes wrong in the home and you have a home warranty, or something goes wrong with your cell phone, we would show up and do that. We ended up, the really cool thing is after we were acquired, ended up being Apple's repair arm. So you put in an Apple Care claim, it's our guys that are showing up to do that today still, which is super.
Today
super
still.
Cool. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Onnit.com. Onnit.com/overcome. Use the code OVERCOME to save yourself 10% on, I'm holding in my hands, the Alpha Brain Focus Shot. It's in this cool container. Amy's got the website pulled up for you guys watching on YouTube.
Did you drink your Focus Shot this morning?
Absolutely.
I thought you did. I did too.
Yeah. How do you like it?
Oh my God, I feel so good.
I always feel
it's early right now
energy.
on a Monday.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. This is one of the earliest podcasts we've done.
Well, this is early for you. Early for you.
Well, to go on the show, yeah, for sure. And it promotes focus and energy, supports a positive mood state, helps manage mental stress. And for me, I truly feel like it helps me get in the flow state faster, stay there longer. Whether I'm going into sparring, I had one before I went to sparring yesterday, and I had a 4.5 hour training session because they were stacked. I went from 12 to 1:30 and then straight over to the gym from 2 to 4:30, 4:40. Came home tired last night, but I was focused the entire time.
I feel like it's very reliable about how I'm going to feel. The more I've used it, the more doing this show, really, the more I'm able to know that when I drink it, I'm going to be on point. My brain's going to be functioning really well. I feel generally good. And that's been so nice to be able to know that it is not going to suddenly make me jittery or suddenly make me feel nauseous or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, that for me is important because some of the products with caffeine, which just has some caffeine, but it's like plant-based and it's healthy and it's a low dose.
It's not jittery bad.
It's not jittery at all. And sometimes I'll have, one of those energy drinks or something, and then I'm over caffeinated, overstimulated, and then I feel like I can't think as good.
That's not good.
Because it's bothering me.
Yeah.
And all the Alpha Brain line is super reliable. The capsules, my favorites, one of my favorites are the Instant, then the Black Label, and my all-time favorite is what we're talking about now, the Alpha Brain Focus Shots. They're incredibly good tasting. The tropical flavor, they also have peach, I believe, but mine's the tropical because it's passion fruit, and that's
it delivers
favorite fruit.
consistently. And sometimes I'll take one and I'll split it between two smoothies when I make it for us in the morning. I'll just throw a little bit in each, and just adds a little something to like our protein powder and the fruit and whatever else we've got in there.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Onnit, for supporting me, my comeback to fighting, Fight for the Forgotten, and this podcast. They make it possible. So please support our sponsors, who honestly I think have the best supplement line in the world. And our favorite products, Alpha Brain or Total Human, get the best in one packet, a morning support and a night support. Thank you for being here with Overcome with Justin Wren and Onnit.com.
Be sure to use that code.
Use the code Overcome to save yourself some money.
Onnit.com/overcome.
Yep. How rewarding is it to see? I think there's several questions I can go with here, but first would be, how rewarding is it to see the fruits of your labor pay off? Where I've been to your home at Lake Travis, you taught me how to wake surf.
Oh, dude, you did awesome.
Thank you.
I think you got up the first time, right?
I did.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And so and you get to live an amazing life. You have incredible friends. You have such a lovely partner in Summer who just I love y'all's relationship. And you get to travel. You have a home that overlooks Lake Travis.
It's just a house.
It's a house, but it's gorgeous with an incredible view. And I mean, I think that's motivating for people to hear that you started out of the library. And you started before that with the winery and everything else, but you had to do a lot of hard work to get to where you are now.
Yeah, I think first off, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. This is awesome.
I love it, man.
I'm a very open, hopefully like raw person, but there was by no means have I like reached success, and there's for the last 10 years there's 100+ nights that you like cry yourself to sleep. Like it was a struggle for was a struggle for years. Like starting businesses, and you know this with I was reading. But you've done so much cool stuff, Justin. Like you've written books, podcasts. You're a humanitarian. You're a fighter. But
Thanks.
One of the things I love about Overcome is you want to talk about like what's all the stuff that like went wrong and how do you get out of it?
Yeah, of course.
There were like many nights walking home. I used to walk to and from work, but like many nights walking home that I'd just like start like tearing up and crying with how hard, like how much pressure you have, how many people are counting.
5,000 people counting on you at one point.
Yeah, and everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Like for the most part, it's not like I don't know. It's an uphill battle the majority of the time, and people that attain success, like they say, overnight success is typically like 15 years in the making.
Yeah. There are no overnight successes.
Yeah, there really isn't.
Yeah. I mean, people will say it once you get there, but then they didn't see all the sleepless nights.
Yeah, just
the walks home where you're tearing up, thinking everything's failing, or having failure after failure after failure after failure until you get there. So what were one of those times that you really had a moment of doubt or even defeat that you're like, I can't continue, can't keep doing this?
Well, for sure, running out of money. Like when you're wondering how you're going to make payroll next week or next month. the amount of times my co-founder and I had lowered our salaries to zero or near zero, just because like that was going to extend our runway by 2 more weeks. There was one time I ran payroll for us. My co-founder and I were, I think, paying ourselves like $36,000 a year. And we were paying 30 plus people more than we were paying ourselves. But like, we needed to do that because like that would try to keep the company alive. We had launched products that failed. Yeah,
I think just on that point real quick, where you're paying 30 plus people more than you, that speaks volumes of your character and even integrity, where it's like, hey, I believe in this. And so I'm not going to lower y'all's.
Totally.
I'm going to lower mine because I believe this, and this is what a good leader would do, or this is what I feel compelled and that I need to do.
Yeah, and it's so funny because everyone thinks that like your title, like they're like, oh, Justin's the CEO, like he has to be like just crazy successful and like he's the boss man and
so someone coming to you asking for a raise and they're getting paid more than you.
Yeah, no, I've had those conversations.
Yeah.
There was someone that actually came to me and asked me for a raise, and he was like, hey, AJ, I would love a $5,000 raise. I'm like, hey, unfortunately we're pausing all like raises and bonuses right now until we turn the ship around or whatever we were doing at the time. And he was like, well, $5,000 means so much more to me than it means to you. And I lost my shit. Like I was like, that is, if you actually believe that, like if you believe that, you shouldn't be in our culture, in our company. And then we literally, from that conversation, we worked on a transition plan and moved him out of the company. But yeah, there are just so many tough conversations.
If you're leading a company, or if you're someone involved in a company culture, how important is it to find the right people? I mean, I think that's self-explanatory. But for you, how would you riff on that? Where it's, you want the right people in the right seat on the right bus, headed in the right direction.
For sure. It's the hands down the most important thing. Hiring the wrong person is bringing, like, we were super fortunate that we were all college age and coming out of college. And so I got to hire my best friends.
Yeah.
And I don't even like the term hire. Like, I was fortunate enough to be able to work alongside my best friends for years. It is like, life is way too short to not be around people you love, and it could be in workplace, who you hang out with after work or on the weekends. Like, life is way too short to not have fun and not be around the people you love. Which on a company I just started, which is it's a chicken.
What's the name again?
It's called Coop.
Coop. Okay,
and this is actually the first time I've ever, two big firsts.
We were hanging out Saturday, and Amy, all of a sudden, he pulls out his phone and he goes, "Look at my chickens." and it's like a live stream from inside the coop.
How do I get to that? How do I?
I'll share the live stream.
Yeah. What's the website for Coop?
So it's Coop.farm.
Okay, cool.
There's no .com. It's just Coop.farm. But the funny, so the two big firsts for me today. This is the first time I've ever
just pulled it up. If we can pull that up for the people watching on YouTube.
On a mission to democratize chickens. I like it.
How'd you come up with that name?
So the company
or that saying.
Because I think it's hilarious. So the company, I want anyone that has a backyard in the U.S. to be able to raise chickens and own their own food supply, like have food sovereignty, know where their food comes from.
Food sovereignty.
This whole idea of like farm to table has been kind of greenwashed. Like we think that if the average egg guess how old the average egg in a grocery store is?
Weeks.
It is weeks. It's on average 30 to 60 days. From when you take it off the shelf in the grocery store. 30
to 60 days.
Yeah. And so...
how long do they last?
If you keep them refrigerated for months.
Okay.
And so I believe that we can create this world where millions of people have
fresh
get
eggs?
like backyard to table. Like what's
Wow.
cooler than that? Where you have basically family members, like people that raise chickens. They're not just egg factories. They become family members. And I've been raising chickens for 10 or 15 years. And what we want to do is how do you automate everything? So we're going to take care of food delivery, cleaning. We'll set it up for you. We'll hand deliver baby chicks for you. And we're going to enable anyone who wants to raise chickens. We'll walk you through it. We're going to build this this crazy community where it's going to be like decentralized food production. So if you have hundreds of thousands of people raising chickens that are and by the way, this is all for eggs. Like people don't raise their own chickens typically in their backyards for
slaughter,
meat.
yeah.
And so we believe we can start this movement where people can like egg sharing. So think like Airbnb, but for eggs, where you can either it's like the modern day lemonade stand. You can teach your kids about entrepreneurship. You can share with food shelters and do food programs for excess eggs that you have. Sell them back through like Target, Whole Foods, where people can start monetizing excess eggs. But this is actually the first time I've ever talked publicly about it. So
wow.
So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on and sharing here. So it's Coop.farm.
Coop.farm.
Can people go on there now and start getting set up?
Not yet.
Quite yet.
We're probably gonna launch in a year.
Okay, great. But people can start planning it out and start following the journey.
Yeah. No. So long term, we want to build.
You want to build
On
chicken
Mars,
coops on
it said.
Mars?
Yeah, well, automated ag production. So like that, it could.
So you're
it's gonna
thinking
be-
small, really?
Well, I think it'd be really, really cool to build automated both protein and vegetable production systems for SpaceX colonies on the moon and Mars. Like you're going to need food production systems there.
And we just met a guy Saturday over at Chip's place.
Yep.
Started Firefly, co-founder Eric, and he just got a NASA deal to start taking stuff
I've
to
heard of his company. I've followed it. Mhm.
and taking stuff to the moon for NASA, back and forth. So maybe you can take your chicken coops.
Yeah, it was a $93 million contract. Like,
Yeah.
that's serious.
Yeah, I think he's raised like 370 million total.
Probably not that
350?
much for NASA, though.
Yeah.
You know, they're
No
like
kidding.
93 million.
Yeah, he texted me last night that he's heading to Washington D.C. today.
It's awesome.
And, we're gonna get together, show him the docu-series, which I still want to show you.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of purpose. It's called Overcomer, and we'll cover everything from addiction to suicide to bullying to modern day slavery, the water crisis. Through that, I'll be making a comeback fight, but it's all stories through Fight for the Forgotten of people we've gotten to really impact their lives and see life transformation happening, whether it's over in Uganda or right here in Austin or in Oklahoma. So I'm really excited about that. And so how do you come up with a dream for something like this? I mean, I guess you had 10, 15 years experience. And then you're like, everybody needs this.
Yeah. Well, first off, Amy and Justin, what you guys are doing with Fight for the Forgotten and is like the coolest thing. It's inspiring, and I love what you're doing with Overcome. This weekend, I think, how many days sober are you now?
I think I'm 215 today.
Like that's crazy. That's a milestone. That's awesome. All your like followers, listeners are like rooting for you and like love this, and it's inspiring. So just thank you.
Thanks, brother. I'm really grateful for that.
Thanks for the kind words too about Fight for the Forgotten. I
Yeah.
feel like, what you've done with the Ukraine project that you've worked on, we can learn things too from your approach, which has been really interesting to hear about, which we'll get into.
We'll get into that, and I'm excited to go there. And we'll do an intro where people know that's coming later in the episode. But I really, man, thank you for the kind words on Fight for the Forgotten. And then for me personally, Amy, we were talking and Saturday, and I said 213 days, and you're like, wow, time flies, man.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, and I this is just the life that I truly want to live, because whenever other people can, I can't, right? And other people like me with like addiction. But man, it takes me out of who I am, who I want to be, what I could potentially do. It just, it it robs me of what you just said, the kind words about fight for the forgotten. And if I'm using or stuck in a cycle of addiction, like I could never live the life of impact that I truly hope and even know deep down that I can, and the great things I have seen. And so I think the last time I went to treatment, which was November 18th or something like that, November 11th was when I got sober. 11/11 is my sobriety date. And it was really confusing to me because I have so much purpose with Fight for the Forgotten that I was like, how am I back here? Like how'd I do this again? And it's confusing to others. It was confusing to Amy. It was confusing to my mom. It was confusing to people, but I think it's even more confusing to me because I've said on the show that I truly think in a fight, it's the person with the most reasons that usually wins. And I believe whenever I make this comeback fight, there's not a person they can put in that cage with me that when I'm looking them, staring them down, like I'm just going to know I've got more reasons than you, and he's going to know too. Like he's not fighting for the same stuff I am.
Totally.
So I think it was a mind warp where it was like, I have all this stuff that isn't even about me, that means more than just what matters to me. And so getting caught in that, I had to really look back at childhood stuff, PTSD from even living in Africa and other things, and be like, all right, I'm willing to give almost myself away, or through Fight for the Forgotten, I'm able to do this stuff for others. Why can't I do it for me? And I think it goes back to even the wrestling talk where I'm sure on the mats, you were so quick to ask for help, or technique, right? Yep. Or training, or, hey, coach, I'm not getting this move down correctly. Like you're explaining it this way. I'm seeing them do it and it's just not clicking for me. But I sought out probably the best coaching in the world when it came to wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, strength and conditioning. Then even through Fight for the Forgotten, I was surrounding myself with founders and mentors, and even speaking, or when I wrote my book, I was like, I don't know if you knew this, but I graduated like 236 out of 237 at Bishop Lynch, which was a great school. And a lot of people loved academics, but I was probably in the same boat as you, by the way. ADD and dyslexic, and it was hard. And I was focused on other things. But whenever I wrote the book, I sought out, and I did a Sports Illustrated interview, and the person interviewing me was a New York Times bestselling author, and she's like, we're going to write you a book. And so I got to be surrounded by another one of the best. But whenever it came to the biggest struggle of my life, some reason I felt like, and maybe it's from being a fighter and from being a wrestler and having to, you have a team, but also like it comes down to you. So I think I got stuck in the loop of, I've got to do this myself. Like no one else can do this for me. And so then I think from that, I would also say, I wouldn't go to a AA meeting because I didn't want to be an old grumpy man sitting in a dilapidated like basketball gym in a shitty chair and like complaining about my life and my wife and everyone around me, making it about them instead of me. So I just had some bad perceptions and didn't think I could ask for help. And, there's a doctor named Dr. Daniel Amen, 12-time New York Times bestselling author. Who's my doctor. And Amy's gotten to see him and talk with him. And he's just, he's a great guy. And he told me something really important, man. And it was me asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign of strength. Totally. And I'd seen him 3 years earlier, but then I stopped. I went to him once. He spent 3 full days with me out in California and gave me his everything. And then I'm like, okay, I got it now. And then when I was back in the same spot, I'm like, man, and he's like, hey, you are not worse. You have to see that progress isn't linear. Progress isn't linear, and you aren't where you were when I met you. You have made progress. You feel low, but it's just this little down tick, and you're about to go on an uptick if you start surrounding yourself with the right people and coaches and that can guide you on this journey. And so thank you for saying that. And I feel like this time is different because I want it. And I wanted it before, but now I want it, and I'm taking action. I'm backing it with that and surrounding myself with good people.
Which Speaking of books, I started. What is it? The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
So I'm about a quarter way through. I started it yesterday.
Wow.
It's an excellent book.
Great.
It's
I want to have that author on the show.
yeah. No, it's a very the stories are just like are crazy. That you want to tell people just very quickly about the book?
Actually, I told you about the book before I really dug into it. So
it's all about
Matt Stagg is a friend that does Joe Rogan's booking, and
Okay.
He said you have to have this author on. You have to read this book. It's for you. It's for your audience.
Yeah, no. It's all about overcoming trauma, PTSD.
Okay.
A bunch of case studies with Vietnam veterans, and like there wasn't a in psychology. There's a like the Bible of psychology is called the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual.
You learn about that at treatment a lot.
But there wasn't a term for PTSD until the end of World War II, and so people would get diagnosed as schizophrenics when they'd come back from World War II. And there's a group of doctors that were like, hold on, this is like people are having all these crazy, they're reliving all this trauma. And so, and it goes into like specific case studies of patients and how they, like deep brain stimulation and like 15 different treatments for childhood trauma, sexual abuse, veterans coming home. But it's a fascinating book. You should definitely have the author on. But I'm like, I don't, a third through, quarter way through.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. I'm going to be able to say that we already talked about it on the show, whatever he's on. Fightfortheforgotten.org. You can go check out Fight for the Forgotten, the foundation that I started. It is my passion project. It is something that I love so much because of the people we get to help. We get to help the pygmy tribe who adopted me in help themselves. We say opportunity is greater than charity. Charity can be great, but opportunity is just always better. That's why we've drilled something like 80 water wells already, providing over 30,000 people clean water. We've started sustainable farms, bought back over 3,000 acres of land for the people who originally owned it, put it in their name. We built 32 homes, and now we're about to start a health center, a school, and a marketplace. They're going to have a maternity ward, a pediatrics unit, and a dental suite. You can join the Fight for the Forgotten Fight Club at fightfortheforgotten.org. We would love, love, love to invite you on this journey to join this fight arm in arm with us. Our fight club, it's a monthly giving club. You can give $5 or more a month, and that empowers us to empower people. Thank you for being on this journey with us. I invite you to come along for the ride. It's been absolutely epic, putting love and compassion in action and fighting for people. Fightfortheforgotten.org. Join our fight club. I think for me, have you ever heard of EMDR?
Mm-hmm.
So I did that and it was really, really good. But I've done it 5, 6, 7 times. And 1 or 2 times, I feel like it left me more raw than having like a resolution. So at treatment, this last time through, I think that was the biggest breakthrough I've ever had in any sort of therapy session. And I've done therapy for years and with 4 or 5 just really great therapists and psychiatrists. But they did something called ART, which was Accelerated Resolution Trauma Therapy. And it was EMDR with like guided meditation almost.
Okay.
That then allowed me to go back to specific moments of childhood trauma and other things and find resolution there. My brain, what was really cool was it was almost hypnosis, but not. And then my brain would do for me what I couldn't do for myself. And it was like, what would have happened? What could have happened? What should have happened? And it was just crazy because it was the most vivid. I wrote Amy a letter and describing it all. And Sydney got it, and she's holding a big envelope, and she goes, how would he have sent you, what was it?
A wad of cash.
How would he have sent you a wad of cash
17-year-old.
from treatment? And it was really just 19 pages of written notes, so it wasn't cash, but it was, I wanted to remember it, and I wanted to journal it, and I wanted to be able to go back to it because it was so powerful, so profound. It was exactly what I needed. It felt like almost too big of a gift because I got to go back to all these moments and be able to see
That's crazy.
how it could have been better and how I could have shown up and how basically almost, how would you say it? Almost they call it like psychotherapy, where or psycho drama, where my brain did this for me. It wasn't guided, but I got to step in and almost be the hero that I needed in that moment. And now it's like I get to see those, and when things flare up or memories come back, which they really don't anymore, not much. Like we've even talked about some bullying moments where it's like that doesn't really affect me in the same way. But I get to be like, hey, little guy, if I see the inner child wounds kind of coming up, I get to be like, hey, now I'm the 35-year-old me, and you don't have to act that way anymore. You don't have to go use, or you don't have to be triggered or things like that. And I get to react the way I want to.
So I was thinking about this yesterday. Did you, so I was thinking about like, do I have any past trauma that I haven't internalized or that my brain is hiding from me? Mm-hmm. And I think the answer is no, but or maybe there is that I don't know, but have you ever like uncovered trauma that you didn't realize that like where your brain's almost keeping like a
suppressed memory, a veil?
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I've had a few of those. So just real quick, like, when I was at treatment the first time and there was no real resolution, there was no real actual trained therapist there. It was like a militaristic, like boot camp type thing where they cussed at you, fake as fuck, motherfucker, you mask wearing clown, you piece of shit.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And that
seems traumatic.
It was.
Seems like it's going the wrong direction.
I was the only one, I believe, out of 34 guys there that, wasn't court ordered there. And I like chose it because I wanted to go to like fight camp to like, for the biggest fight of my life. But it was wrong mentality, and I needed some healing, and I didn't get it there. But the only thing you had to do at 5-minute breaks, and you're up at 5 a.m., you can't go lay down until 10 p.m. And lights out were at 11, and you're locked out of your space the whole day. And so you have to be moving, have to be in class. And so the only 5-minute breaks you got, everybody just went to the smoke pit, and I never smoked a cigarette in my entire life. And so we went out there, and they started smoking, and I finally, I asked everyone to have something to do in there, right? And that's where everyone it was where only community happened, was around there, and conversations. And I had the first hit or two of the cigarette, and a memory came back to me of basically a woman that we had someone that kind of helped us keep the house clean growing up and stuff. And I had a surgery, and the day after surgery, and I was hopped up on pain pills. This woman was probably in her 60s, and I was like 14, 15 years old. And I would say, I mean, I think the term would probably be rape. That was my first time having sex and other things. And she was a person that didn't keep care of herself, and not to knock her, but at the same time, like, she stunk. She smelled like cigarettes. She was older. I was younger. This is my first experience, and I didn't want it, right? And I asked her to stop, and it kept going. And so having that cigarette, like, I don't know, not 20 years later, but 16, 17 years later, all of a sudden I remember that memory. And I remember after it happened, like, that was my first time up out of the bed, was to throw up, and she had to clean up my throw up right next to the bed.
That's dark.
Yeah, it's dark. So that was a repressed memory. And then in that ART, accelerated resolution therapy, there was a moment where like a childhood thing happened of like sexual abuse, like to me. And it was in a closet. And going back to that memory, I got to kind of be the hero I needed and step in and grab myself and take me out of that closet. But whenever I left and had the resolution, like I helped my little guy, I talked to my little guy, all that stuff. He like looked at me with these eyes, like that wasn't all, or something. I was missing something. So I told the therapist, and she's like, well, let's go back to that memory. And so the first time I saw it, I was being walked to the closet hand in hand with this babysitter. The second time I went back to it, I'm watching it on like a TV screen in my mind, like a visualization. My eyes are closed. I see it's not just me being walked hand in hand. There was a little girl too. And so in my memory, I remembered it happening to me, but I didn't remember it happened to someone else at that same time, or it happened multiple times, but one of the times at least there was another little girl there. So in the resolution, I got to step through the TV into that closet, grab both little Justin and this little girl. I still don't know her name or anything, but I can vividly see her now. I got to pick her up, walk them out of the door, shut the door on the babysitter, go to a park. We got blizzards from Dairy Queen.
Did they turn them upside down?
And yeah, they did actually. Yeah. We actually didn't go into the store. We walked through the drive-through together, me and these two little ones, and we got chocolate strawberry blizzards, and they turned it over for us, and we grabbed it from there, and we walked to the park. So it was just a really cool moment where it's like, okay, that stuff happened, but it's okay. And now I can respond differently and kind of have those memories, not erased, but another memory filling it that might not have actually happened. But for me, it's like, you know what, this is what I wish would have happened and what could have happened. What would have happened if I was me now.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, those are two repressed memories for sure that came up during therapy, kind of a treatment. At both times at treatment, I had repressed memories come up that I had not thought of for decades.
And I mean, the older I get, the more just amazed I am at the human mind. But at the same time, you're like kind of reprogramming your brain to like release all the stress of holding something back and being at least a little bit more at peace and controlling the narrative and not letting the narrative control you. It sounds like
that's it, because I went back to a bunch of different moments, but it was like different stages of my life, and we collected kind of the memories on VHS tape, and me and my little versions of myself from 3 years old and 13 years old and maybe even 18, 19 years old, like we all came together and we put into a cardboard box and we went out to a different park, and there was a bonfire going, and we each, threw the memories into that bonfire, and then we walked away, and somehow in the kind of dream state or vision, the visualization, we set like fuses fire, and then like a fireworks show happened, and it was just like a moment of like kind of putting a seal on the memories, where it's like, hey, this is the stuff that happened in the past, but it's in the past, and like now we're here, and now I'm going to step up for those versions of myself. And
totally.
Yeah. So it was good. Thanks for asking that. Thanks for setting the stage to where I could share some of that. But yeah, I'm going to check out that book.
Yeah, I'll probably finish it. I'll let you know how. I'll probably finish it in the next day or two. Like, it's excellent.
Do you read books all the time that fast?
Yeah, I'd listen to them. So
okay.
I Audible.
I just downloaded it right now. I think I had already, but yeah.
Audible's like the best service in the world. Like I used to not. I'd probably read 3 books a year or 5 books a year in my 20s, and now I'd listen to probably like 60 to 75 books a year. Like,
wow.
I'm re-listening to a bunch of them. A lot of like business or philosophy is mainly my jam.
Well, on that, getting back to Coop.farm and business in general. So you have a vision to do it. What's kind of your process of making it happen? You have an idea.
Yep. So I spent the last 10 years in Silicon Valley, which is like the Disneyland for startups, for fundraising, hiring great talent, building companies. And so for Coop, the first thing, I've spent the last year like designing like what do we want it to look like. We have prototypes that we're working on. The first designer of Nest designed our chicken coop, which is hilarious.
That's awesome. I remember you guys putting it up out there. It was awesome.
And so I just raised venture capital. So we just raised venture capital about 2 or 3 months ago. We just brought on this woman, Jordan Barnes, one of the most fantastic people I've ever worked with. She just joined us 3 weeks ago. So we're starting to hire. We're building the team. We're looking for talented generalists. So if any of your listeners are looking for an awesome job in Austin, for sure reach out to me. And then now it's building, like, how do I surround myself with the best people I've ever worked with, get them on like the vision of like, like the ability for anyone to raise backyard chickens. which is hilarious. And it's like that. Like that. One of my buddies asked to if I would start a company with him. This was probably a year ago, and I was like, I'm absolutely flattered, but it's not in a space that I'm passionate about, and I'm getting to the age where I only want to work on things that I'm like incredibly fired up and passionate about and believe on. Like I still like, I want to do like something that's fun, that I like wake up and smile and laugh every day. Cause, for the last couple of years of, building iCracked, my last company, like I'd wake up and be like, shit, I don't want to go to I don't want to go to work today. Cause I felt like I had to go to work. Like I didn't have a choice. One of the funny things that, for founders that, people may not think about, or that I didn't think about, a lot, is that like founders for the most part are the only people in companies that can't quit. Like everyone can choose to be there, but if you're like the founder or the CEO of your own company, and if you're the CEO of your own company, like everyone, when they're miserable, they can say, hey, I'm going to go work somewhere else. I'm going to go be happier doing something else. But like founders like you can't quit. And so I'm flattered by, so my friend asked me to start a company with him, and I was like, I only want to work on things I'm passionate about, that I'm fired up in the morning, that like, there's nothing more energizing than like when your body wakes itself up at like 6 a.m. and you're excited to get to work. Like you're like excited to wake up and start something and create something and work with people you love working with. And you guys get it. You guys love each other, and you get to hang out and work on all these cool projects. So, but
you better love it.
Yeah, you have to love it, because I spent years not loving it. And the big takeaway is, like life is way too short to be in a place that you're not truly fulfilled or happy for a long enough time. That's not saying avoid hard work and doing stuff that, that's not avoiding hard work. And there might be times that you're miserable for months, but if there's too much time that goes by, then like you need to change something. And
so because I've been on Rogan's a bunch, a lot of his listeners recognize me and will come up and tell me their story. And it's awesome hearing a lot of their stories, but there's so many people that, they'll say, Joe hammers on the 9 to 5, sitting in a cubicle, all this stuff. Is this really what you want to do? What could you do? All this stuff. And people have come up and told me, man, because of the podcast, I took a leap of faith and I started my own company, or I got involved in this, or I did that. And it's really cool to hear years later how it worked out for them. But if one of our listeners now is stuck in a job that they don't see really going somewhere, and they feel trapped, they're not excited to wake up, they're working long hours. If they're asked for overtime, they feel like they can't say no. They don't like their coworkers, whatever it is, and they feel the prompting to take a leap of faith, but they're not sure what or where. Maybe they do have an idea. Have you ever had a conversation with someone that's come to you and seen what you're doing, a friend, and then they just needed that nudge of encouragement? What would you say to someone to say, hey, bet on yourself?
I would say this is so cliche. It really is. Like, if you want to
cliches oftentimes have truth in them.
For sure. If you want to start something, you don't need to quit your job to do it. You don't need to go all in. I think that you can start it like think of it as like a seedling. Like you like plant it and then you slowly water it. You don't need to starve yourself to validate it if an idea works. But it is, even if you start something and fail, the learnings that you get, and I've failed at a bunch of different like little side projects, and the learnings you get are greater than not having done it. And what is it, Matt Vincent, that was on your a recent, and he said that he started a bicycle shop. And after year 3 they had to shut it down, but like his learnings, I'm sure his learnings are so much greater than having to shut it down on year 3. So I would say you don't have to burn your boats necessarily to start something. You can start small, but if you're working a 9 to 5 and you are miserable, like there's plenty of probably other things that you could be passionate about, or other different, like, I don't know, control your own destiny in your life and like take ownership from it. And find something else that is more fulfilling. Like you don't have to be miserable chasing. You don't have to be. You can chase a paycheck, but you don't have to be miserable chasing a paycheck. Like find like try to find something that you're happy about and you're fulfilled with, for sure.
So you've had a unique start, right? I mean, you started a winery in college. Is that how you say it? A winery?
Yeah.
Okay. And then another company and built it up, sold it. You're in your, I mean, you probably started more than this, but the third company that you're passionate about, you're excited for. But you also have two of the sweetest parents.
Oh my gosh, they are incredible.
They're incredibly philanthropic. And do you think, I mean, because we're about to get into Ukraine, but I'd love for you to talk about your parents, the example or the things that you've learned from them and their hearts for giving. And basically a lot of what we say on the show is how can we improve our life or overcome our darkest day so that we can make this world better.
For sure.
And I think you had a pretty stellar example of that growing up, even still now today.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't have that, you know, and you did.
Yeah. So my parents are the most incredible role models. They're morally sound. I for sure, I consider myself just blessed beyond words for how amazing that they are. They're a lot of it is rooted in Christianity. Like they like my mom writes. So they're just incredible Christian leaders and followers. And so I think it's just luck. It's God. It's being blessed. That it's probably it's just a genetic. Like everyone, us sitting right here is we won the lottery. So I would say I owe a ton of who I am to them. And one of the cool things that they just let my brother Chip and I, and we have a sister as well, but they wouldn't let us watch TV. They would kick us out of the house and lock the door and say go explore the woods. And they really pushed us to try to be independent. But at the same time, not giving us any handouts or spoiling us. But they're just incredible people.
And you'll have, I believe a family foundation. So like specific philanthropic giving that they get passionate about, that the family gets passionate about. And I think that being exposed to something like that, at least from my perspective, could have set you up in a position to where when you heard about the war happening in Ukraine, to where a friend calls you at 2 days in, and then all of a sudden y'all decide we're going to do something about it. And what has come from that is 9,000 supporters plus raising over $800,000 or something like that, helping 6 refugee centers, right? And sending 2 or 3 ambulances to...
we just bought 3 ambulances. They're in Italy right now, and we have to drive them to Ukraine in the next probably in the next 2 weeks if you want to drive one. I'll drive one.
We just drive it to where? Will you be driving
we'll take it to Ukraine.
Ukraine?
Yeah.
Wow. Should I go to Italy and drive a ambulance to Ukraine?
You've got some other things going on in the next couple weeks. Let's just hold on. Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Well, we'll think about it. And then
it's not a no.
But how? So you're going to drive one of them?
Yeah, most likely.
Wow. Look at this. So that's
how long at this point has the war been going?
Yeah. So we're at I think around day 108. So February 24th was when Russia invaded Ukraine. And by the way, I'm no geopolitical expert at all.
Sure, but
which is great because that's super inspiring. If people want to get involved, you don't have to be a geopolitical expert.
Yeah, and I think what just on that point, to ease you, we're not saying you're the expert on Ukraine, but I think that anybody can learn that if you have a prompting and you have a desire and you have a passion to help, so many people, through Fight for the Forgotten, I have had probably hundreds of people tell me in person or through messages saying, oh, I want to do something like that, but I could never do it.
Totally.
Or, oh, I'm so glad you can, but I can't. Or you have a platform and I don't. Or you started a charity, but I wouldn't even know where to begin. And you guys just were like, hey, we're going to do this. So you threw up a link and you're like, and I'm going to go. And
one of the articles too said you just couldn't sit back and watch, which I love that. Like, because we go on with our daily life so many times rather than going, this is horrendous. What can I do?
Yeah. So a quick backstory. So my best friend Max, his name's Max Rance McDonald. In the earthquakes in Nepal, I think it was 2015. He was like, oh, holy cow, like we got to get over there and help. So he got a group of his friends together, went over there, raised, I want to say like $50,000 or $60,000, bought generators, were like pulling people out of rubble.
Wow.
And he's a first responder, and he called.
He's a man of action.
Yeah, for sure. He's been to, I think, 110 countries. He didn't have a house for 8 years.
Pretty sure I met him on the boat one day.
Yeah,
and he was incredible dude.
Yeah, he's the craziest. He's like the craziest, most unique guy that I know.
People kept pulling stories out of him. I don't know if it was like Oprah or what. I mean, just like all these people that he had just been with or done this or that, but then all the good.
Yeah.
All the good that he's done. And
so he called me, I want to say February 27th. It was like 7 p.m. And he's like, hey man, like I think I'm going to Poland and Ukraine if you want to come. Like this is just absolute, like, he's like, I've been crying. I've been crying for like hours over this. Like we have to try to do something, and we're just like two people. So I was like, hey, I've never been to Poland. I've never been.
Why did he call you?
I don't know. Probably because the first couple people he called didn't answer. They're probably
I thought maybe y'all had a.
No,
he's one of your best friends.
Yeah, he's
just one of your really close friends.
Yeah.
So he knew he could talk to you about it.
And so I was like, hey man, I would love to come. Like so we bought one-way tickets that night, leaving the next morning.
And this is on like day.
This is a day 3 or 4.
3 of the war.
Y'all talked that day.
That night we talked that night.
And then we flew bought tickets that night.
Yep.
You left the next morning.
Yep. And we flew out because when the war started, like
that's not normal, right?
Well,
most people don't do that kind of thing.
I mean, that's action.
And my lovely girlfriend Summer came with us as well, and was a huge part of it as well. And so, but when the war first started, people thought it would be like a week-long thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I still am sort of living in sort of a fantasy world that this is going to end like tomorrow or something. Yeah. And I'll see it in the news and I go, well, shit, that's still going on. Like,
yeah, and at least in the West, I feel like for the first month of the war, it felt like it was being like on every news channel, and everyone was talking about it. And, and it feels like it's not like the new normal now. Like it's
gotten a little old.
It's past its news
story.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like us when we were in the Middle East, and it just kept going on.
And people become a little worn down.
For sure.
And aren't listening as attentively. Aren't sickened in their heart.
Well, and then also as an American, you're like, oh well, the U.S. government's going to take care of it. We'll just pass a $40 billion aid package to it. Like what?
Oh, good, that's done. We can check it off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we landed in Warsaw. It was my first time being in Warsaw. I didn't know anyone. We like put on Instagram. We're like, hey, we're in Warsaw. If anyone knows it, like people we can link up with, that'd be awesome to get to meet people that are that knew what was going on more than we did, because we're basically just.
Was there a part of you that was like, maybe we should have thought this through more and not left the next day, or were you just like, no, we're going?
No, there was. There was a part of me that's like, let's try to make a little dent in helping out if we can. And so we said the first thing we need to do is actually go see firsthand what's actually going on at the borders. And so Poland is one country that borders Ukraine. There's 6 main border checkpoints. Max posted like, "Hey, we're here. Does anyone know how to help?" We linked up with this incredible woman, Victoria Umanska, who's another startup founder. She's very involved in like the entrepreneur community in Warsaw. And so we rented a little car that the air conditioning didn't work for the first 3 days, or the heater didn't work because it was freezing. The heater didn't work, but we went to each border checkpoint. And the first night we were there, we were at the first checkpoint, and it's just like thousands of moms, grandmas with their children, strollers, just pouring over the border. At the time, Poland wasn't like the government. There's so much bureaucracy with like people coming over that people were having to wait in the snow in lines for like 40 hours to cross with no food. Cars were running are running out of gas. Like petrol's a huge issue there. People are like dying. Like literally, people are dying in the lines of colds, waiting to get across the border.
You sent me some videos, and it was women, children.
Like I cried. At the first border, I was like, I am not. I'm not saying I'm strong, but I was like, I am not strong enough to deal with like they're leaving their husbands, their sons, they're conscripted to fight, and they don't know where they're like families just huddling, like they have nowhere, they don't know where to go. That being said, the Polish people are the most welcoming, incredible. Like you talk to the Polish people, and they're like, this isn't the government helping the refugees. This is like the Polish people. The government's not doing shit. We're like, this is all 100% on the Polish people. And so there's hundreds of volunteers at every border, so that are like warm clothes, food. People were like Polish. There was. Polish people literally fighting each other to try to help, to like, hey, I'm driving this family. I'm driving this family to like Warsaw or Krakow. So the first couple of days we visited the 6 or 7 main border checkpoints. And at each checkpoint, we would find the person that is in charge. And we'd say, hey, what do you guys specifically need? And they would say like, hey, we have enough baby formula. We're running out of feminine products and sleeping bags. And then, but we have enough food and soup or something like that. And so
did you bring a translator? Or?
Yeah. So Victoria, who is with us,
okay.
So she's Polish and Ukrainian, which helps. And there was no formal organization we were with at the time. We would just say, hey, we're trying to help where we can. What do you guys? We're going to try to raise some money. We had set the bar at like, hey, Max had raised $50,000 for Nepal, so like let's make $50,000 our goal here. So we visited all the checkpoints. We put up a GoFundMe. And then what was super incredible is like it became a snowball effect with people helping. We just happened to like be able to somewhat centralize it. And within a week or two of us being there, we'd raised, I think, 100,000 euros. There was probably 15 people all working out of a co-working space. This CIC co-working gave us a very large free office. Cool. And so like our new Polish friends and Ukrainian friends, we were just like a central hub, or we just helped put a little central hub to get everyone together. And then we started buying supplies. So we'd go to like the Big Five sports equivalent, and we'd buy out all their sleeping bags that they'd have. We'd go to the Best Buy equivalent and buy 100 iPhone chargers, because when people are coming over, the things that number one request, one of the number one was like an iPhone charge to keep their phones in contact with their families. We ended up. I was there for 45 or 50 days. Justin and I are driving ambulances back
from Italy.
Yeah, Amy, you're coming as well. It's going to be awesome.
I want to.
But we teamed up with a group called Yes Theory, which is they believe in this. It's a YouTube group. I think they have 5 or 10 million followers. They came out to like get the word out to their followers. And one of the really cool things that they do is they're the whole idea behind yes theory is like you say yes to things that are like their tagline is seek discomfort. Like do things that make you uncomfortable. Say yes when someone calls you and says, "Hey,
Let's go to Poland tomorrow.
let's go to Poland tomorrow." Like you do it. You seek discomfort. And so we teamed up with them. We've since raised or past 800,000 euros by 9,000 individual people, which is like people are donating €1, €5. Like it's just incredible.
It's an army of support.
It's an army of support. We've delivered right now. We're supporting 8 refugee centers.
8, that's awesome.
And so refugee center, they're like processing centers where they're exactly what it sounds like. We've delivered, I want to say 80 tons of supplies. So we're at the point where we're buying pallets of food, sleeping bags, baby formula, and sending pallets of food and supplies to refugee centers. What's crazy is we've had a couple American veterans or current active duty. They're like, "Hey, we saw what you're doing. Can you plug us in?" And we'll plug them in with the Ukrainian Special Forces guys that we're working with, or the U.S. Special Forces guys we're working with. We're 100% humanitarian. Like, how do we support the Ukrainian people and the refugees? We've stayed out of the military side of things. But it is heartbreaking beyond like words. Like it's crazy that this is happening. But at the same time, it feels like this is the first issue in a long time where it's not political and it's not divisive. Like it's literally the world is coming together to support Ukraine. And I don't know, it makes you believe in humanity so much more than I did. It's crazy that tragedies give you further belief in humanity. Like yeah, and I'm thankful for our team on the ground there. And we're just a group of like, call it 15 to 20 of us that just organically assembled to help. And if it's far and away the most impactful work I've ever done in my life. Like you're delivering supplies or combat medical equipment for like tourniquets. So if you're shot, you need to cut off your blood flow. And we're taking delivery of $50,000 worth of like tourniquets and chest seals for gunshot wounds. And then the next day after we deliver it, you're getting pictures from people that are like, I would not be alive if I didn't have this equipment, and I'm alive today because of you. And I've never done any work or been a part of any work in my life where people are alive today that wouldn't be alive if you hadn't said, yes, I'm going to go help. And it puts everything into perspective. Like business and startups are dumb compared to that. Like,
well, the time response too. Like I think in one of the articles I read about what y'all have done, they called it a fast response nonprofit, which is so interesting, right? You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just related it to kind of how Fight for the Forgotten started up, where I just went and I wasn't with an organization. I just went, saw, and what you said, seeing it with your own eyes. For me, it was needing to, when I went the first time for a month, second time for a month, third time for a year, I had 4 simple goals. It was with the first 2 trips. It was live with them, listen to them, learn from them. So that way we can tangibly love them in the way that they need, want, desire, invite, all that stuff. But when you read a statistic, you can forget about it. When you hear a statistic, it can go in one ear and out the other. Maybe it hits you hard where you're like, I'm going to go tomorrow. But oftentimes it doesn't, or it has a chance where it won't stick. But being able to see it with your own eyes, that changes you. And then being able to become part of the solution or helping in whatever way humanly possible. A little bit here, a lot of it there, and having those moments where people say, because of the support, like it changed my life, it saved my life, it helped me, you're backing, just knowing that like the work you're doing it's not just headed in the right direction. It's not shotgunned out. Yep. It's like bullseye. This was what was needed, and we got to deliver. And what that does is it adds more fuel to the fire to keep going. And I think, just speaking from the support side of it, a $50,000 goal to 100,000 euros to over 800,000 from 9,000 people. I mean, that snowball effect, it's inviting others who can't buy a ticket tomorrow. Totally. It's saying, hey, here is a way that you can actually help, whether it's €1, €5, 500, do what you can. And we're going to put it to use.
Yeah. So one, and this is a free idea for anyone that I would love for someone to take that I want to do is after this is like, I haven't been that philanthropic in my life. I wouldn't, I feel like I need to give back more than I have. And this is the first major thing that I've been a part of that is like it's so meaningful. It's meaningful. It's like I'm passionate. It makes me realize how passionate I am about trying to help, where I can. But one of the things that we're going to do now is start a formal, like, fast response nonprofit. So I want to take like 100 of our close friends, like our network, create a nonprofit that, and part of what we did, it's called Team Ukraine Love is it's teamukrainelove.com, for that's the organization we created. One of the cool things we want to do is like absolute radical transparency on 100% of donations go to help. So like, wow. Everyone there pays for their own tickets, pays for gas, pays for their own hotel rooms. So 100% of the 800 or 850,000 euros that we've raised goes directly with radical transparency. So it's like you can see these pallets of food that your $100 donation made. So we're going to create a nonprofit that is built for 100% transparency on donations going, so it doesn't cover any overhead. And then we have like a fast response for any crisis or tragedy. It could be earthquakes, natural disasters, war, where you blast out our members. And maybe we have 1,000 members or 500 members or 50 members. So we blast out and say, hey, Justin, a tsunami just hit Southeast Asia. We're getting a team there. We're leaving tomorrow. Do you want to come? And so of the 100 people we email, maybe 10 of them can go. And then that's the core team that assembles like the fundraising efforts, the helping efforts. And I think there's an opportunity for a really cool type of nonprofit where it's like you're actually getting your hands dirty, helping out immediately. Like it's not you donate to UNICEF and or Red Cross and you don't ever see it again. It's like you see it directly impact immediately. So if anyone's listening that wants to start that, like either start it or join us as we're starting it, because I would love to build a network of like very fast acting first responders that can help immediately when crazy stuff in the world happens.
Yeah, I've had incidents where I just didn't know what to do and didn't have anywhere to turn, like when there was the big hurricane or whatever it was, totally. Even just down in Houston.
And so we had that pulled up on the screen, but that's just at teamukrainelove.com, or how can they reach out if they want to get involved?
So teamukrainelove.com. And that has our GoFundMe, but also if anyone wants to like get on the ground, we'll connect you with the team there. Like we've said that like if we need all the smart, hardworking people we can get, like email me, find me on Instagram, or email me at aj@one.fish. There's no .com or anything. And I'll connect you with the team to help out. Like we've put out posts and we've had like U.S. military veterans being like, I put out a next door in Valente, Texas, being like, hey guys, we're on the ground here in Poland. Here's what we're doing. And there's a guy that reached out, former Green Beret, and he's like, I want to get connected and help where I can. He flew to Europe and he's in Ukraine training Ukrainians right now. And like,
wow.
Wow. Next door.
Yeah.
You know what? Can I ask another question?
Yeah, of course.
I was curious about your feelings about social media, because one of the things was, you're looking at radical transparency through social media, and it's been such a big part of this, but it gets such a bad rap. so many times, all the time, really, where people are down on social media, but it can help so much in instances of revolution, like we saw in Egypt a few years back, and then in a situation like this. So I was just wondering, like, do you have mixed emotions about social media? Are you just really grateful for it? Like, can you speak to that?
I'm incredibly grateful for it. Like, this is the first war where it is so widely. It's like every person with a cell phone is a reporter now. So like large corporations don't control how news is getting out there. Everyone can be their own journalist and post content. So I love it because it brings a level of like accountability and transparency to governments and shows, no, this is actually what's happening. It's not just propaganda controlled by 5 major news corporations in the world. One thing that I have noticed is it's amazing how like soft Americans are actually, though, where I don't think we're showing enough like what's actually really happening on like families being murdered and executed killings in the streets. Like in Europe, they actually show bodies and what's actually happening. And it feels like America, at least in particular, is like very soft for that. Like with putting all these viewer discretions and not necessarily showing what's happening. I think you need to actually like, this is the realities of life. Like you need to actually show the gnarly stuff. I don't know. I wish, I feel like social media is helping get that narrative out where the news people are failing.
Yeah. I was trying to see if you could pull that up on your computer.
We are soft.
Yeah. I was trying to see if you could pull that up on your computer.
And we could see more. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, I can. So.
And yeah. So on that.
There we go.
I mean, this, for people that are watching on YouTube, if you're listening, you can find this. It's at least on Reddit, but it's a map of all the places that Ukraine has taken bombs in every place it's been attacked, and where Russia is taking over territory. And
Russia's the red creeping in, right?
Yeah, the red that's creeping in, and it just keeps coming. And this doesn't have the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Where's Poland on this map?
Poland's to the left.
And so it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of attacks. And I think it's... Anyways, this to me was sobering, seeing it all over the nation. Not on one border, but striking everywhere as they're infiltrating and taking new ground. And you've actually been there, so this hits home in a different way. Like, I don't know the people there. I haven't seen their faces. I haven't seen them waiting to flee out of the country and being stopped for 40 hours on the border trying to escape that.
It's craziness.
And to your point about it being soft here, like there's been a few times, and when you talk about seeing the bodies and stuff like that, a few weeks ago Amy knows I was sent pictures of one of the first villages I'd stayed in, and I knew a lot of these people, and something like 46, I think, were slaughtered and killed with machetes and shot, and you see people I know with machetes to the face or their guts literally pouring out, and children that are, I mean, at least 10 children that are under the age of like 5 years old that are like naked babies that were hacked up. And I'm trying to like stay here now instead of going back there, because like it's really, 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 really hard. It's a really tough pill to swallow, knowing that is what they face, you know, and this is what people in the Ukraine
but we're sheltered even from what we face, right? Like if we saw actual pictures of Robb Elementary's interior with dead 5th graders and 4th graders, there would probably be action taken pretty fast. I mean, I'm sure there'd be a lot of criticism. Like, I agree with that. Yeah.
I like 100% agree with that. Like, you got to face the realities, and we, like, maybe myself included, like, we're incredibly fortunate, but we live in an incredibly sheltered life on not facing the realities of what are happening, what travesties are happening globally.
Yeah, well, you're so right about that point, Amy, and AJ too. And
I know I'm not saying that those people need to see it to make change or anything, but It's just,
No, you're right. You're right though, because I mean, I've spoken at things. I remember I was in Oklahoma, and I was speaking at this country western concert with like some great artists and things, and they were gonna support two causes, and one was a military cause, which I actually love the founder of that nonprofit, and he spoke first, and they had me come speak second, and I went up there and I spoke, and it was about the water crisis and introducing people to that, and had some slides, and I was showing some of my Pygmy family up there and everything. There's a lot of people that gave that night, which was incredible. But when I got off the stage and I was walking away, I was stopped by this group of like 4 women, 1 man, and they were just like cussing at me and saying, "Why are you going over there to help? They're not Americans." And they're like, literally, I had beer being spit on me while they're like yelling at me and stuff. And they're like, I'm like, because I know them, because like I've seen it. And they're like, well, you should be helping here in your own neighborhood, your own country, your own community, all this stuff. And I was like, hey, I agree. I try to do something here. At the time, I was volunteering weekly at with an inner city youth group and stuff. And I'm like, I try to volunteer here weekly and somewhere in the States every month if I can. And I go there every year overseas, but we have people on the ground that are doing stuff every single day.
There's a fundamental fallacy in that too, that you can't do both. Like people like to be like, think it's one or the other.
I remember I told him, I go, why can't we help here, there, and everywhere that needs, because the whole world, every dark nook and cranny, like needs a lot of light and a lot of love. And so wherever you feel led, wherever you feel called, whoever it is that's put, whether it's right in front of you,
Yep.
or you're compelled to travel halfway across the world like you did, like just do that. Follow those instincts, follow that intuition to give back, to get outside yourself, to find your specific way to put love and compassion in action. I think that's what we're here to do.
I completely agree. And I mean, to your point on, like, because you know them, you know it's real, you've seen it. When I got back, and I've been to Poland 3 times now. When I got back, my brother Chip was like, "What are you doing? Like, why do you even care about this?" And what's amazing is I care a heck of a lot more now because I'm working alongside my new lifelong Ukrainian friends on like how do we make a tiny little dent in what's happening, because I now have 40 or 50 new people that are in my life that are helping out, that have fled Ukraine and are trying to get supplies to their families, to their friends. And then like, I'm now connected into it. Like I think it's super important to get involved any way you can. And not just with Ukraine, but like helping any person you can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, when Ebola happened, I was there in Africa, and it's happened a bunch, but it was discovered on the Ebola River in Congo back in the 80s, 90s or something. And anyways, I was living there. Everything started shutting down and other things, but I remember coming back and hearing about it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, if the world just knew about the water crisis like they knew about Ebola, I don't think there would be a water crisis anymore.
Totally.
But because people were scared it was going to affect them, you know, talking about the sheltered part, or COVID, the whole world everybody knows the word COVID, but not everyone. I didn't know until I saw people dying of the water crisis. I didn't really know 3.4 million people a year die of dirty water. 2 million are kids under the age of 5 years old.
That's crazy.
And so having that, you know, experience where holding a kid or burying him like that changed everything for me, to where it's like, that's a huge passion of mine. You seeing them and seeing the lines and seeing them stand out and freeze and all that stuff. So I guess just because we're kind of coming up on time, what do you think? I mean, an easy low-hanging fruit is people can join y'all. They can help and support you. Do you see I mean, I know you're not the expert, but do you see this going anywhere soon? I mean, like ending, or do you think this is going on for years?
I hope that Putin is getting the like raw information that says it's not going well. Like I hope his advisors are not pandering to him, saying, "Hey, we're gonna win this. We're steamrolling it." But like because a lot of Ukrainians actually are have the resolve to win this. Like they're convinced that they're gonna win this, which is awesome. So I hope that Putin has good information and finds a compromise that doesn't result in tens of thousands of more people on both sides dying. And it could be like redrawing borders if Zelensky would do that. It could be like I hope that there's a tactful way for both sides to not feel like they have a bunch of mud on their face. But wars take a long time. Like I don't know. I hope it. Of course, everyone hopes it ends sooner than later. But I hope that I hope that there's a compromise that puts an end sooner than later. But I'd have no idea what that is. Like
Yeah. Well, it's hard to think, like just being a fighter and knowing the feelings that can happen after a fight. Normally but this isn't war, and this isn't people dying. Or normally after a fight, you come together even stronger than before. That person, unlike anyone
Totally.
else. So I'm optimistic that hopefully there's something that can happen. But man, the loss of life, and it's a really tough situation. And what do you hope your team can accomplish? I think one of the beautiful things is the support you're giving to people right away, and then what's being birthed out of it, a nonprofit. It reminded me of a nonprofit. There's a thing called Team Rubicon.
Yeah, of course.
You know them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of them in action, and military veterans that get out.
I mean, it's just a bunch of badass people coming together to help.
Yep. And they become first responders and go right away, and they've had this training to be able to do that. I think what's really cool about you is you're creating that network that, the 10 of the 100 can respond and then take it on as their own, and then open it up for another 10,000 people to come and support. I think that's what's been so cool about Fight for the Forgotten too, is we've had tens of thousands of donors from all 50 states, from 60 different countries. And then I get to meet people at the airport or wherever and be like, hey, we were part of this, or we did that.
That's
and
so
it's
cool.
like, and y'all have started that. It's a movement. It's a movement of Team Ukraine love. And that's beautiful, man. I'm really grateful you were here, man.
Dude, this was awesome.
I have a question before we go.
Absolutely.
Toward the beginning, you said you haven't achieved success. So what would achieving success look like for you? What does success look like for you?
Another super cliche thing. It's for sure, like right now I'm optimizing for like joy and happiness and surrounding myself with amazing people. So I think that's number one. Number two is like, I only want to work on projects that I'm highly passionate about and fired up in the morning. There is like, I do want to generate enough wealth, that I don't ever have, that money becomes a tool, like a tool to either help people build cool stuff, seed fund my friends' companies, just invest in cool stuff. And then building, like I would say immediate success in the next 5 to 10 years is like with the chicken coop business, which is, I smile every time I think about it.
I love that.
It's like, how do we bring like, urban farming to millions of people around the world to like control their own food supply and build the world's largest decentralized food production system? I think that would be really cool. And it goes back to number one, which is have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you're halfway there by those measures.
Yeah, I do have a lot of fun. I had fun this morning. This is awesome.
Yeah. I've had a lot of fun. And then I think this is gonna help some people, man, to to see attaching, to have fun while you're doing it, but to attach it to purpose. And when those moments come, going back to the yes theory, but how you did it yourself, when those moments come, am I going to say yes or no? And that for me was what got me to Africa and with the Pygmy people. Was I had this vision. I didn't know what to do with it. I gave it to a friend. He said, I know who they are, and I'm going in 3.5 weeks, and you're going to come with me. And then he said, but it's a war zone, and people are being killed, even decapitated in the streets, and that's so where we're going. And I was like, oh, I don't, maybe we can go later. You know, he's like, no, we're supposed to go now. And him and his wife, who was pregnant, said, and he was going to cancel his trip until I came along. And then they said, you'll always, I was like, what if I don't go? And they go, you'll always wonder, what if? What coulda?
Dude, that gives me the chills.
Yeah. What coulda, what woulda, what should have happened. And they're like, we don't want to live with those. This couple said, we don't want to live with those questions whenever we're 60, 70, 80, if we get there. You know, what would have happened if I took that one trip that one time? You know, what wouldn't have happened, AJ, if you guys didn't go? If you didn't set a $50,000 goal? If you didn't think, if Max didn't have the experience from doing it in Nepal before, you know, if he didn't do Nepal, this wouldn't be happening now maybe. But then also, like, y'all wouldn't have created an opportunity for 9,000 people to get involved and say, we're going to do something. If you wouldn't have gone, if you wouldn't have said yes, you know? So I'm proud of you, man. I'm grateful for you. It's a good thing.
I'm grateful for everyone that
of course,
like that has helped out for sure.
Yeah, it took 9,000 people to do it.
Yeah, I'm a tiny little cog.
Exactly, and I know that's your heart. But I think it's an example on the show of what you, Max, all the main team of 10 or 15 people, and the 9,000 supporters. Like it takes a tribe, it takes a village, it takes people from all across the nation, or the world.
Totally,
the many nations. To come together and say, we're going to do something. TeamUkraineLove.com.
And there's a donate button right there at the top, so you can go straight to the GoFundMe. That's called Immediate Aid to Refugees Fleeing Ukraine. And you got donations coming in right now. There's one from an hour ago, 57 minutes ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome. Let's keep them coming.
It's action oriented too. You know where it's going to go right away.
One of my buddies drank too much wine. And he was like, hey, I just donated 50,000 euros.
Yes.
And I was like, that is amazing. You should have another glass of wine.
Yeah, have another. Have one with you. Yeah, that's so good. Well, AJ, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to share, or anywhere where people can find you? I know you shared your email.
Yeah, just in Instagram and email.
Okay.
We'll put it all in the show notes too.
It'll all be in the show notes.
Mm-hmm. Guys, this is awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence. It was a gift. Mm-hmm. For all y'all out there, you, me, we have overcome 100% of our darkest days. So rise up, overcome. Thanks, brother. Hey, I have an idea. What if since we have to do an intro and we'll have like a few minutes to do it, like 10 minutes, could we just do it and AJ be here real quick?
Yeah, of course.
We do it with AJ?
I mean, yeah, we've got 10 minutes left.
10 minutes, so we'll do like a 5-minute intro.
That's cool, right, Grant? Yeah. Okay.
Can you join me on this intro? I've never had a guest join on the intro, but
yeah, why not? Who cares?
Why not? Yeah.
Do you still have cauliflower ear?
Yeah.
Do
I've
these
got it
hurt
drained
you?
numerous times.
Do these hurt you a little bit?
Yeah.
Can you wear AirPods?
No.
I can only wear an AirPod
The
in one of my
new design, he can wear a little bit.
The AirPod Pros?
Yeah.
With the
I have
soft
to
one?
stuff them in there, and then if I shake my head, they'll fall out.
Yeah, I can only wear mine in my left ear.
My left one's been closed up completely twice. Are we rolling? This is the intro. Cauliflower ear. Yes, AJ and I both can only wear AirPods in one ear. My right ear. Your
left ear.
Y'all could buy a pair and share.
Oh, you want to do that? That'd be awesome. We'd be great on planes together. Yeah. So AJ, thank you for being here, man. This is the intro, but man, what a podcast. Thank you for being here.
This was awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. What did we cover? I mean, how we wrestled together growing up.
Yes, your wrestling background. We covered his business background, and then it fed right into how he's
helping in
started
Ukraine.
this incredible
Team UkraineLove.com.
It's not. Is it a nonprofit officially?
It's not
really
officially a nonprofit.
It's more of a
we're in the process of
aid
it,
effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An immediate aid effort.
They've had over 9,000 people support all across the
I'm
world.
about to try to donate.
Go
Actually.
do it, Amy. While we're on the intro, go donate.
Log into my
That'd be
GoFundMe
great.
though, but I'm trying.
Over 9,000 people donating over 800,000 euro, which at first I was saying dollars, but yes, euro.
It is crazy.
And that's awesome, man. I love it. Some of the key takeaways I got were just say yes. And like if a friend calls you and says, I'm compelled to do something. I've been crying about hearing the news, and this is in day 2 of the war starting. That night you bought a ticket to go to Poland the next day. And because of that, Max, you, so many others, and the 9,000 people to support it, you guys have been able to do some incredible things. Supporting over 8 refugee centers, sending 3 ambulances. I might be going with you to drive.
They're really great pictures of everything on their website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might be driving ambulances. You for sure. Driving ambulances to Ukraine. Wow. But I think this is a really interesting episode. Whether you're in business, you want to become an entrepreneur, you're thinking about getting out of your lane of what is comfortable and going and pursuing an adventure that you feel called to. This episode will encourage you to either start small or to go all in, to take a leap of faith.
To get ideas on how you can help people around the world and not feel discouraged by, a problem that seems too big. Yeah,
whether it's an actual war or whether it's bringing food to people's backyards through Coop.farm, AJ's newest business venture that's going to be incredibly successful. And you can live stream, see your chickens, as AJ was showing me on Saturday night before we did this podcast. AJ, thank you for being here.
This is awesome.
Yeah. What was you've done other podcasts before, but what was a moment for you, a takeaway?
This is for sure more down to earth and raw than most. Like
cool.
you're a big lover at heart. You're a fighter at heart. But I think we covered a lot of deep stuff that isn't just surface levels, and this was great. Cool,
thank you. Yeah, even you queued up me to go into some moments of deep trauma, and things I've had to do for therapy, and a great book you've started that now, since I told you about it, I'm going to start it too. We're going to have the author on, hopefully, from The Body Keeps the Score. Amy, how about you?
What?
Anything that we should tell in the intro before we get started?
I think we did. I think we covered it all. It's great. Really inspiring. And thank you, AJ, so much for your sharing today. I really enjoyed it very much.
And AJ, I'm just grateful for you. I'm grateful for your brother Chip. I'm grateful for Mama Bear and Papa Bear Forsythe. I love you, man. Thank you for being here.
Love you too, man.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget to send your Overcome stories to overcomepodcast@gmail.com. And also rate, review, subscribe, and follow Overcome with Justin Wren.